Welcome to Perfectville, your first place podcast for your third place 1-6 lousy Miami Dolphins, part of the Believe Network, presented by FanDuel. I am Sam Marcoux, and I am getting you kickoff ready for the Miami Dolphins against the Atlanta Falcons, Week 8, the perfect Week 8 preview. Miami Dolphins limp into this contest 1-6 with embarrassing losses, big blowout losses to bad teams across the league. Up to Atlanta to face a 3-3 Atlanta Falcons team that has some pieces, has some monsters on the offensive side of the ball that the Miami Dolphins defense is going to have to try to figure out in order to get to 2-6 or fall to 1-7. Not sure what's going to happen, although I have an idea of what's going to happen in this one. Ladies and gentlemen, citizens of Perfectville, it is the perfect Week 8 preview. Miami Dolphins, Atlanta Falcons. Like I talked about, the Miami Dolphins lose yet again to the Cleveland Browns. Not particularly close. Blowout loss to one of the worst teams in the league, worst franchises in NFL history. Somehow beats the crap out of the Miami Dolphins yet again. Miami Dolphins come in with injuries to Darren Waller, the piece that they just found and was such a good offensive weapon for Tua Tagovailoa, especially with Tyreek Hill being out for the season. Darren Waller is now out. He goes on IR. Julian Hill, much maligned Julian Hill, who's actually done quite a good job in terms of run blocking, pass blocking, and being a transitional piece in this offense. He's not going to play in this one, which leaves the tight end room to Tanner Connor, Greg Dulcich, and maybe Chris Myrak, who has been on our practice squad since 1874. So the Miami Dolphins are going to be without Tyreek Hill. The Miami Dolphins are going to be without their starting offensive lineman on the right-hand side of the line. They're going to be without tight end 1 or tight end 2. And unfortunately are going to be with the same players on defense that we've seen week over week, because they're going to have to figure out a way to stop Bijan Robinson, the great Bijan Robinson. It's not going to happen. I don't know how the Miami Dolphins are going to scheme to stop this run game. It feels like this is going to be yet another game that's going to frustrate the fan base, another game that's going to accentuate the negatives of the Miami Dolphins, which there are a plenty right now, and yet another game where the media, the fans, and maybe even players alike are looking for a way out and maybe away from this coaching staff. I thought at least 3 times so far this season that Mike McDaniel is going to be fired. I thought at least twice this season that Chris Grier would be asked to step down or move on. I have been wrong. A lot of us have been wrong about a lot of things when it comes to the Miami Dolphins in 2025. I do not understand, with the exception of one plausible scenario, why Mike McDaniel and his coaching staff is still employed. I do not understand why Chris Grier and the front office that's currently in place are allowed to continue making personnel decisions for the Miami Dolphins. I don't understand why Stephen Ross continues to allow this to happen. We talked a lot about this last week. Like I said, nothing's going to change for the Miami Dolphins until Stephen Ross moves on from the team. He is who is at fault here. And like I talked about, like what I said, Mike McDaniel's not qualified to be the head coach. Chris Grier isn't qualified to be the general manager of a fast food restaurant, let alone the Miami Dolphins. And Tua Tagovailoa is not qualified to be the quarterback of this team any longer. But until Stephen Ross does something, that's what we're stuck with. And it was interesting. I did a lot of digging this week, a lot of soul searching when it came to the Miami Dolphins. And a lot of people writing a lot of interesting articles, doing a lot of good research as to what the Miami Dolphins are up against, not just now, but probably over the next 24 months. Because the immediate future for the Miami Dolphins, and the immediate being the next 2 to 3 years, is not a good one. That light that you see at the end of the tunnel is probably a freight train coming to hit us across the face as Dolphin fans everywhere. Because the Miami Dolphins not only are bad on the field, but they're bad on the ledger. I mean, the salary cap, and you can make jokes about it not being real. The Dolphins are as close to being in salary cap hell, if I could pull a phrase from the early 2000s, than you will ever see. They're going to have so much dead cap next year They may set a record. Kyle Krabs did a great piece talking about how they could very easily set a record for the most dead cap space of any football team in a single season. That's astounding to me. That's astounding that you can defer and kick the can down the road and make all of these contracts work for a window to go win the Super Bowl now and be 1-6 and still have to pay all that money and basically guarantee that you're going to be bad for the next couple of seasons. We did it again. We are nothing but consistent when it comes to the inconsistency that is the Miami Dolphins franchise. I mean, holy smokes. You're talking the Miami Dolphins, in theory, could have $120 million in dead cap in 2026, depending on some of the moves that they make. And they will be making moves. You know, kind of one of these things that happened this week that people aren't really talking about is the fact that Jordan Brooks' contract, the linebacker who is leading the league in tackles so far this season, mainly because the defensive line can't tackle anybody, so it's up to him to make a tackle or it's going to be a touchdown. He just changed, altered, and tweaked his contract. And they did that to give themselves more money today, right now in 2025. Why? Not because they have some grand plan, but because they're going to trade somebody like a Bradley Chubb, which is going to accelerate some of that cap hit to now, and they're going to need that extra money to go sign street free agents. That's why they did it. So the changes are coming. We will make some trades. There will be some assets coming back to the Miami Dolphins. What those are, I have no idea. Probably mid to low level draft picks, most likely. But they're going to shed themselves of talented players and get rid of some of these contracts in order to try to get ahead of at least the 2027 season. And that's really the problem with the Miami Dolphins. 2025 is gone. That is a dead season. 2026, looking like it's going to be more of the same. It's going to be an evaluation season next year of the young, talented players, hopefully, that they get in the draft, young, talented players that they can sign off of the scrap heap from other teams, and see if you find a couple of gems. See if you can get a couple of diamonds in big lumps of coal that you can start to build around. Because that's what needs to happen. They do need to restart. They do need to rebuild. They do need to have a complete strip down and rebuild. I don't think Tua's going away. A lot of people want Tua to no longer start as the quarterback. I disagree. I don't think he's the right quarterback for this team any longer, especially once we get a new head coach. They're going to be like, that guy's gone. But I liken it to a little kid that doesn't clean up their room. Do you go in and clean up the room for them? Do you have somebody else go in and clean on their behalf? No, you shouldn't. The kid has to take responsibility. They have to go pick up their own mess. Tua Tagovailoa has made a mess of the quarterback room. He's made a mess of the quarterback position. And I think it's up to him to go out there and clean up that mess. If for no other reason, not for the sake of the Miami Dolphins, that would be great. But for Tua Tagovailoa's own self-preservation, at this point in the season, anybody who's playing for the Miami Dolphins is really on a job interview for the other 31 NFL teams. That's what they're playing for. Self-preservation, job security. They're not looking to continue to, how do I help the Miami Dolphins succeed? That isn't the mindset. The mindset is, how do I succeed? What do I got to do to be better so that I can find another home somewhere else and continue playing ball at a high level and maybe compete, maybe win a game or two? So I think you keep Tua Tagovailoa in the game. I think you trot him out there against the Falcons. You trot him back out there against the Baltimore Ravens a couple days after that because, oh, by the way, the Dolphins played twice this week. Yay. And you keep putting him out there and you keep seeing what he can do. Can he work his way out of this? And if you have to pull him during the game because he's hurting the team in the moment, in the game, sure, take him out. Put somebody else in. Put Zach Wilson in there if he's done swiping right on your mom's profile. Put Quinn Ewers in there just to prove that he isn't the guy. That's fine. But you're not benching Tua Tagovailoa for Quinn Ewers right now. You cannot give that white flag to the rest of the players on the team. You can't do it as a coach. I mean, look, Mike McDaniel, his days are numbered. I think he knows that. Chris Greer, I think he knows his days are numbered at some point. So what are they doing today to at least show the rest of the league that they belong somewhere else, that they are hireable in another aspect, in another franchise, in another role? I mean, is Mike McDaniel going to be head coach again next year somewhere? Probably not. But he could be an offensive coordinator. He could be an offensive specialist, an assistant head coach somewhere. But if he quits, if he just says, look, this is tough, forget it. I'm going to bench this guy. I'm going to trash him in press conferences. I'm going to undermine everything. That's not a good look for all the other owners, GMs, and head coaches that are looking to hire coaches into their wing, under their wing. Same goes for Tua. Tua needs to shut up at the podium. If he's gone through media training classes, he needs to go back and rewatch the tape, because Tua is not doing himself any favors. Every time he goes up to the podium, he seems to be cracking under the pressure. How he acts in front of the microphone, in front of journalists, seems to be how he acts behind this fractured offensive line. He makes bad decisions. He's got one read, and then he tucks tail. I mean, going up there and saying, well, I'm not very tall and I can't see Jalen Waddle over these big guys in front of me, so it's really hard to get him the ball. That sucks, dude. You can't say that. What are you talking about? That's on the heels of calling out your teammates the week before, saying they're not showing up to player-led meetings on time. Some of them aren't showing up at all. And that's after going, hey, Josh Allen's really good. There's things that he can do that I just simply can't do. What? Why are you reading your journal to everyone? I'm short. I'm not that good. Other people don't like me. Shut up, dude. What is going on here? But unfortunately, that's the mess this franchise has created. That's the mess that Tua Tagovailoa has contributed to. And because of that, I guess Stephen Ross is going angry dad parent mode and saying, you guys fix it. Figure it out. But they're not in the plan long term. There will be changes, as Ian Rappaport talked about. It's just a matter of when and how many. I think you're going to start seeing pieces traded off here after these couple of weeks. I think you'll see people like Bradley Chubb, Minkah Fitzpatrick. Again, a lot of these veterans on defense that still have a little bit of juice left in the tank that can go contribute to another team, go win a playoff game, or maybe more. Tua Tagovailoa is not going anywhere. I doubt Jalen Waddle's going anywhere. I sincerely doubt Devon Achan's going anywhere. But everyone else, pretty much fair game. And as the season limps on, as we continue forward with whatever this is, I think I'm going to be taking a little bit of a longer look, deeper look into how does this team manage these choppy waters for 2025 and 2026, who are realistic coaching options. What is the game plan at the quarterback position post Tua Tagovailoa? And how do the Miami Dolphins dig themselves out of 9 figures of dead cap space, try to come back and be competitive on the shortest timeline possible? But that's not today. Today is just me venting, sitting on the old couch, audio couch. Everyone listening to this, all the citizens of Perfectville, thank you for being my therapist. Thank you for listening and understanding the pain that we're all going through. Speaking of pain, you know what has no pain? The people that sponsor this show. So let's go be pain-free for a couple of minutes. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to go listen to these ads. We'll be back, and we're going to preview this Atlanta Falcons, Miami Dolphins affair, Week 8, sponsored by FanDuel here in the town of Perfectville on the Believe Network. Be back right after these words. And we're back. Sam Marcoux, town of Perfectville, on the Believe Network, presented by FanDuel. And let's open up the FanDuel Sportsbook, shall we? It is Friday, 2 days before the Miami Dolphins clash with the Atlanta Falcons in Week 8. And there's lots to do. This is going to be a fun sports weekend. Obviously, you have college football. You've got a full tilt of NFL games, except for those teams on a bye. So make sure you, pick up a couple of people off the waiver wire because chances are a couple of your superstars are not playing this week in fantasy football. But when I go onto the FanDuel Sportsbook right now, again, like I always say, it doesn't matter. NFL, college football, Major League Baseball still going on. World Series Game 1, Toronto Blue Jays, Los Angeles Dodgers happening tonight. Is Shohei Ohtani going to hit it out of the dome? I wouldn't bet against him, and you could probably get those odds on FanDuel at the Sportsbook. Hockey is in full swing right now. The NBA, they've got a couple of scandals, speaking of gambling. But the games are started, regular season soccer, tennis, PGA, UFC, esports, college basketball, WNBA. It's all there. Check out the same game parlays. Check out the odds of every single game that's out there. And since we're there, let's open up the Miami Dolphins against the Atlanta Falcons, according to FanDuel. So first thing I look at when I look at the line, the Miami Dolphins are underdogs. Shocking. They're on the road Sunday, 1 p.m. start, 101 according to FanDuel, which is kind of interesting. But minus 7.5 are the Atlanta Falcons. They're favored by a touchdown and a half a point against the Miami Dolphins. I think that's probably fair. I think if you got that double, I would still take the Atlanta Falcons. I don't see the Miami Dolphins being able to stop Bijan Robinson. I don't see the Miami Dolphins being able to slow down some of those weapons that they have in the passing game if they even decide to pass. Michael Penix isn't necessarily the guy that's going to lead the Atlanta Falcons to a Super Bowl, but he's good enough to turn around and give the ball to his running backs and let them do the damage to the Miami Dolphins, just like every other running back has done this season. I don't know if Bijan Robinson can be stopped for less than 200. He might go $2 against the Miami Dolphins. So I'm thinking Miami Dolphins, underdogs by 7.5. I take the Falcons, lay the minus 7.5 and go. Over-under is 44.5. I don't know. I think the over hit against the Browns, like I told you it would. I just didn't have the score correct. 44.5. If this is going to be a running game, I don't know that Tua Tagovailoa is going to be able to be explosive, especially now that you have two of the top three weapons out with Darren Waller and Tyreek Hill. You only really have Devon Achane and Jalen Waddle, and he's not tall enough to throw the ball to Jalen Waddle all of a sudden. So really all the Falcons have to do is stop and slow down Devon Achane, and the Miami Dolphins is going to come to a grinding halt on the offensive side of the ball. So I think you take the under. Take under 44.5. Take the Falcons minus 7.5. Thank me later. If you want to take a look at some of the other wagers available on FanDuel Sportsbook when it comes to this game, let's take a look. I'm curious to see what the odds are where they have Bijan Robinson. So here's a fun four-leg same-game parlay. Bijan Robinson, anytime touchdown. Drake London, anytime touchdown. Devon Achane, anytime touchdown. Jalen Waddle, anytime touchdown. Payout, $10 wager is $180. I don't know that I'd necessarily do that. I don't know that Jalen Waddle's getting into the end zone. I don't know that Drake London needs a whole lot of receptions in this game. Again, this is going to be a ground and pound for the Atlanta Falcons if they're doing things the right way, which I believe they will. Let's take a look at where they have certain people. So Bijan Robinson, that is probably the best player in this game. Let's take a look at where they have Bijan Robinson running the ball against the Miami Dolphins. So Bijan Robinson, let's see, I'm scrolling down. We've got rushing yards. Let's take a look. Bijan rushing 50 plus. Yeah, that makes sense. He's going to do that. Where the money is if you get, is Bijan Robinson going to get over 100 yards? Yes. I think Bijan Robinson's going to get over 100 yards. It's plus 140 if he gets there. I think if you get Bijan Robinson over 150 yards, plus 750, it's not a bad bet. Bijan Robinson, 150 yards. He may get that in 2 runs of 75 or more against this Miami Dolphins defense. This defense is bad. It's almost statistically last in every single category. So bad, in fact, that Anthony Weaver can't stand up there and justify it anymore. He's actually going back and saying, yeah, you know what? Zach Sealer isn't that good anymore. Why? Well, because we don't have Calais Campbell and we don't have, other folks there. Christian Wilkins. He came out and said that this week. He's like, yeah, he's taking an impact. He's not as good as he used to be, not as impactful or effective as he used to be because these other guys that aren't there. I mean, oh, really? The guys that you didn't pay who then left, but the guy that you did pay, he's the one that's bad? Okay, wonderful. Another great decision by the Miami Dolphins front office. So, looking at FanDuel, I would just slam Bijan Robinson all day. That would be my lock of the week, if you want to call it that. Take the Falcons minus 7.5. Take the under at 44.5. And whatever odds they're going to give you for Bijan Robinson plus 150 yards rushing, go for it. The other side of the coin, the Miami Dolphins, let's take a look. The only interesting player, quite frankly, for the Miami Dolphins is Devon Achane. He's basically the heart and soul. He's the only one that shows up on offense week in and week out, with the exception of our left tackle, Patrick Paul. So Devon Achane, plus 132 for 70-plus yards rushing. Yeah, I don't know that he's going to get 70 yards rushing, quite frankly. Why? Well, because again, there's certain people that are injured that aren't playing that actually impact the rush game in terms of blocking, and they're not going to be playing in this game. And because Tua Tagovailoa can't throw the ball to anybody other than the other team, all the Falcons really have to do is key in on a Devon Achane. Now, Achane is good enough. He's got enough wiggle in his step that he can catch the ball in the flat, because he's certainly going to get a lot of balls thrown behind the line of scrimmage to him. And he can get his yardage, all-purpose yardage. But rushing yards, I mean, unless he makes somebody miss or the Falcons make a mistake, I don't know that he's getting 70. Not in this game. So I would take that bet. I feel like you'd just be giving money to the sports book at that point. If you haven't figured it out, I'm going to give you a prediction about the Miami Dolphins and the Atlanta Falcons here in just a bit. And I feel like I'm going to be predicting a negative experience for the Miami Dolphins. Have you picked up on that yet, citizens of Perfectville? Just a programming note. I don't know if I'm going to try to get myself another show in before this Baltimore Ravens affair next Thursday. Lamar Jackson's coming back for that one, so that'll be nice for the Miami Dolphins defense. They won't have to stop the running back, Derrick Henry, alone. They'll also have to stop the very talented returning Lamar Jackson, who's going to try to save the Baltimore Ravens season. But I will be on the road. I'm actually going to be in Columbus, Ohio, most of all next week, so I'll try to get at least a small episode in for everybody. But if not, just know that I'm probably going to predict that the Dolphins lose that game too. All right, well, let's get this over with, which is the motto of the Miami Dolphins for this game. It is the motto of the Miami Dolphins for this season. It is an ethos for Miami Dolphins fans everywhere. Look, the Atlanta Falcons are going to win this game. They're 3-3. They're a better team than the Miami Dolphins. They have better coaching. They've got better players. They got a better defense. The Miami Dolphins are a disaster. There's just about nothing going right for the Miami Dolphins. Their front office sucks. Their owner sucks. Their coaching sucks. Their quarterback sucks. The good players are injured except for one. It's just not a good place to be if you're the Miami Dolphins or a fan of them. So with that being said, let's manage these expectations. The Miami Dolphins are not going to win. They'll probably win less games than the Dodgers win in the World Series. Because right now the Dodgers are just one win behind the Miami Dolphins when we start comparing those. But I don't see this team for the rest of the season winning more than 4 games. I think the Dodgers are going to win the World Series against the Toronto Blue Jays. So that's why I come up with that. This will not be one of those wins. The Miami Dolphins are going to lose this game. I think they're going to lose handily. I don't know that it's ever going to be close. It really depends on just how the ball breaks right at the beginning. But I think the Miami Dolphins, if they score more than 17 points, I would be shocked. If the Falcons score less than 30, I would be shocked. But I'm going to look at, I don't know. Let's just go with Atlanta Falcons 30, Miami Dolphins 10. Riley Patterson shows up and kicks a 35-yard field goal to make it closer than it seems. But I really don't see this team putting up much of a fight against the Atlanta Falcons. They just don't have it in them. They are not motivated. They don't want to be here. A couple of players are playing to audition for another team right now. Those will be the only ones that probably show up. I think the Atlanta Falcons get out early. I think they stay out front and just pull away, and it's death by 1,000 paper cuts. Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier, and anybody else in that running back room is probably going to feast on this Miami Dolphins defense, linebacking core, everybody that's there. So be prepared. Not going to be a good game. Not going to be a fun game. If you're watching, you're a masochist, and that's okay. You do you. But the Miami Dolphins are going to lose this game. I got it 30-10, Atlanta Falcons against the stupid, awful Miami Dolphins. And that's that. That's the math. Ladies and gentlemen, citizens of Perfectville, this has been your perfect Week 8 preview. Until next time, just remember, nobody's perfect except us. So on behalf of myself, Sam Marcoux, the entire Believe Network, presented by FanDuel, the only thing left to say is goodbye from Perfectville. Later.